Welcome to Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Every week on this podcast, we talk about all things mental health, sometimes stress or anxiety. Perhaps you're burned out. Well, this is the podcast for you. We sit down with the wonderful counselors at Crosswinds Counseling and have a great conversation every week. Let's dive into this week's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Joining us today on the podcast is Susanne Foster, one of the wonderful counselors here at Crosswinds Counseling. Susanne, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We're talking about a topic that we talked about a few weeks ago. We're going to look at it from a slightly different perspective today. The overarching topic is anger. Specifically, Susanne, you're going to teach us about the anger iceberg today. I'm excited to hear what that is. But let me start with a general question. Anger in our world seems to be more prevalent than ever. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just seems that way because of social media and how connected we are. But man, it feels like with the political atmosphere, with so many things, so many people are so charged up, and anger is... It just seems so prevalent from my non-counseling perspective. Is that a fair assessment as a counselor? Do you see more anger than you used to?
I think it's hard to say that I see more anger than I used to. I think it's always just kind of there. You know, anger is used. Some people use it. I actually met someone who says she never gets angry. It wasn't a client. It was actually another counselor who I was doing a training with. And she was like, yeah, I feel sad. I feel different emotions, but I don't ever feel angry. And I'm like, so basically you just feel the emotion underneath the anger and you don't use anger, as your secondary emotion.
Huh.
So I thought that was really interesting. Like,
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine it either.
I've
had it my whole life.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that concept of the secondary emotion and underneath probably feels like a good time to segue to the anger iceberg. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know what that is. For those out there who are watching who don't know what it is, tell us what the anger iceberg is.
Yeah, I use this concept a lot with my clients. So that anger is like an iceberg in that the tip of the iceberg is what is seen on the surface, but under the surface, there could be a number of different emotions that you're feeling. It could be rejection. It could be hurt. It could be, you're just annoyed and you use anger to kind of just like get the annoyance away. So like anger kind of it's like used as kind of a drug. Where it courses through your body, it makes you feel powerful, it makes you feel in control, but it's actually really hurting your relationships, and it's not producing, what I think you think it is. It's actually scaring people or scaring your kids, or it's actually making other people become defensive as well and use anger. So it just kind of ruins things instead of helps.
And so if it's the part that's under the waterline, if it's the iceberg that you can't see, does that mean it's playing out as some other emotion? The tip of the iceberg then is something else? So anger is the fuel that...
No, actually anger is what's showing.
Anger is showing and it's something else that fuels it.
Yeah, something else is going on underneath.
Okay. Could that be anything, or are there typically a handful of things that would be what is fueling the anger? What's typically under that iceberg?
A lot of times I think it could be a trauma response just because of something that happened to you. It's like in your childhood, like for instance, I explain it to my clients that when I was in 7th grade, I had a group of friends that pushed me out of the group and started teasing me and so I just felt rejected in that moment. And so anytime my husband would do something and I would just kind of perceive it as rejection, I would feel angry and I would like lash out in anger. Instead of recognizing that I'm actually feeling rejected because of this lie that I'm believing that my husband is rejecting me when he's not. Like one time I was able to actually think about how I was feeling. He went fishing 2 nights in a row and I was just kind of like feeling lonely and feeling like, oh, he doesn't want to spend time with me. He'd rather go fishing. You know, all these lies I'm telling myself, and like, we can do this very easily. And
Right.
I could feel the anger rising up, like, how dare he reject me? Like, you know, and I actually had time to think about it because it was his birthday week. And I was like, I don't want to be angry at him. And I texted him, I said, I feel rejected that you went to go fishing instead of spend time with me. And he actually came home really sweet and was just like, you know, I'll never reject you. And like the next Friday, we were going to go fishing together. He loves fishing and I just go with him and I read a book. But anyway, and I just kind of offhandedly said, I really wish we could go to dinner. And he like stopped what he was doing and took me to dinner. And I just was like, okay, it goes so much better. If I had called him or send like angry texts, like cursing or whatever that I could have done, it would have gone so much, you know, it could have like, I could have hurt him badly and just, you know, those lies that we believe that aren't helping us.
Yeah, so many times it just feels like awareness is the first thing. So you were aware of what was going on in yourself, and then you found a productive way to deal with it.
Right.
What other tips would you give to anyone out there who's watching thinking, gosh, I struggle with anger. Sometimes it's bubbling up in me and I don't do a good job of controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
What other tips might you give them to help deal with the anger in a more productive way?
Yeah, I think, you know, you don't always have that time to like sit and think when you're in the middle of it, but taking a time out is a really good idea. If you need like a moment to process, because you can feel it coming, and I feel like it's a signal that there's something deeper going on. Either you're being triggered by something that happened in your past and you haven't been healed from that, or, you know, that the anger is not going to help you. So you've got to be able to take some breaths, calm yourself down, and actually take time to process and think, what's going on right now? What am I feeling underneath this anger?
That can be really hard to do.
Yeah.
Because anger seems like this.
So quick.
Yeah, so quick. It's almost like an impulse.
Yeah.
You get into the heat of the moment, and you're typically maybe in an argument with a spouse or a friend or somebody. That's a hard time to take that pause, take that time out. Do you have advice on how
do you stop
yourself?
yourself?
How do you stop yourself? Is there something like a triggering thought that says, okay, I'm getting angry. No matter, even though I want to sit here and fight and I want to spew my venom.
Yeah.
I got to stop.
Well, and I mean, and that's where I go back to inner healing, you know, like I probably, you know, pray through that instance when I felt rejected by my friends. And then I kind of like, from that moment, a lot of things like felt rejected by my family, even though they weren't, you know, it's just like that was a lie. Like, I'm not worthy. I'm not, you know, how the Lord has created me is not worthy of love. And so I've taken it to the Lord and said, like, what do you say is true? I repent for believing this lie, but what do you say is true? Was like, well, how I created you is worthy, you know, and you're never rejected. So, and if people reject because I'm speaking through you, they're rejecting me, they're rejecting him, not, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So for me, it comes from knowing who I am in Christ and knowing that it's hard, because I even started getting angry the other day because I felt rejected by my stepdaughter, and I was kind of taking it out on my husband. You know, he was trying to remind me, like, that's not the truth, you know, like it's not. So it's still kind of there, but like if you can like pause, notice like the anger as a signal instead of like an excuse, like to blow up and to use it, signal to like think, okay, something's going on. What is it? Why am I feeling angry? And actually like get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. You mentioned praying. You mentioned your faith at Crosswinds Counseling. We are a faith-based organization, and when clients invited in, we love to bring faith into these conversations. I know you have a Bible verse that you sometimes lean on in this topic. Share that with us.
Well, it's kind of a lot of what I've been saying. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And the second right after that says, human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. So, and it's James 1, verse 19. I think there's just so much good truth in that. Like, actually listen before jumping up in anger. Not be so quick to like get your point across, but listen first and then let the anger come on. Like, don't be quick to it, because you think that your anger is going to help the situation or you're going to solve a problem, but it actually doesn't. I said, it's not producing what you want it to.
Great advice. Of course, anytime you go to the Bible, you're going to find great advice.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Susanne, thank you, because despite your one friend, I think most of us deal with anger.
Right.
And it's probably something that we should try to be healthier about and be more aware of. I think for me, that's just the first thing, to be aware of, hey, I'm getting angry, and to try to slow down and take that pause. So great tips, great advice, Susanne. Thank you. You can find Susanne at crosswindscounseling.org with all the fabulous counselors at Crosswinds in both Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. They are here to serve you, and you can schedule with them right there on the website, crosswindscounseling.org. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more of our podcast. And you can comment in the section below. Perhaps you could share what you'd like us to discuss in future episodes. We've got new episodes coming out every week. So we'll see you next time on Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling.